It's a very significant event today. James, thanks very much. James Cook there, our Scotland editor. And that's all from all of us here in the 10 o'clock team in Edinburgh on the day that Scotland's longest-serving First Minister announced her intention to resign. Now on BBC One, we'll be joining our colleagues in the nations and regions with the news where you are. But from all of us here at the Scottish Parliament with the news that the First Minister is handing in her resignation after 8 years in power, I'll wish you a good night.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Jones with the headlines in Wales. More of this in March. School strikes are back on as teachers reject the latest pay offer. And we hear how a row over rugby contracts could impact the next Six Nations match against England. Good evening. Noswaith. Our schools will be hit by more strikes next month after the largest teachers' union turned down the latest Welsh Government pay offer. The National Education Union says its members were emphatic that what was on the table wasn't good enough. Here's our political correspondent, James Williams.
Another school day over at Cardiff's Baden-Powell Primary. They closed the gates during the first teachers' strike, and following today's announcement, they're preparing to do so again. What do you think of the teachers going back out on strike?
Totally agree with them. So they deserve more money. They work hard enough, and everything that they've done throughout COVID, can't thank them enough.
I work for myself, so I can do it and have my own childcare. But and on the other hand, I do feel for parents who have to find their childcare.
So what have teachers been offered? Back in the summer, it was announced they'd get a 5% pay rise this year, far below the rise in everyday prices. Last week, the Welsh Government made a further 3% pay offer, half of it to be included in teachers' salaries, the other half as a one-off payment for this year. It was enough to postpone yesterday's strike, but not enough to call them off completely.
There are concerns with regard to a non-consolidated element of that offer. There are concerns with regard to the fact that it's still below our demands, it's still below inflation. There are concerns as well with regard to the fact there's nothing for support staff.
But the Welsh Government says this is as good as it gets. They've got no extra cash, they've raided the reserves, they can't go any further. This is it.
With respect to the Welsh Government, they told us there was nothing at all right at the very start. We're looking to explore every opportunity and every avenue with the Welsh Government.
The Welsh Government says the fresh offer is a strong one, given its budget constraints. Both sides say they'll continue to talk, but where does the Welsh Government go from here as they insist that they cannot shift any further on pay? And that's not likely to change in the short term, at the very least, because most NHS unions here in Wales have paused their strike action to consider the same fresh pay offer from the government. So if they shift even further for the teachers right now, they'll be expected to do the same for the NHS. But unless things change, the thousands of teachers who went out on strike at the start of February will walk out of Wales's classrooms 3 more times in the next few weeks.
Well, Welsh rugby players will also consider strike action during the week in which Wales build up to hosting England in the Six Nations. The 4 professional regions can make fresh contract offers to players, but have yet to do so. The Welsh Rugby Union's acting chief executive, Nigel Walker, has said all player contracts were likely to be completed by the end of this month.
It's not about the money, and we're not asking for more money, we're just asking for voice in the way things are run, you know, just like player welfare, how many games you play a season. That's all the boys are asking for, is a bit of talk in their own destiny, and their own physical health and mental health.
The former Labour Transport Minister has criticised the Welsh Government after it cancelled all major road projects. Ken Skates said the review stopped most investment in roads without putting in place plans for improving public transport. However, Wales Economy Minister says budgets need to be considered, and it doesn't mean the end of road building in Wales.
The strategy isn't to stop road building forever. That's not what we're talking about. The starting point in so much of this is both there's an argument about climate change, but there's also a very practical argument about the fact that our previous road building programme is just not affordable because of the changes to our budget.
So it is about money?
It's partly about money.
Football, and Wales women beat the Philippines 1-0 in their opening match of the Pinatar Cup thanks to a Kaylee Green penalty. Wales face Iceland on Saturday. And in the Championship, a 2-1 win for Swansea City at home to Blackpool, bringing them to 12th in the table. Let's take a quick look at the weather, and cloud will build overnight, bringing an area of rain from the west, and winds will freshen. A frost-free night with overnight lows around 5 to 8 Celsius. Tomorrow then will be dull and wet in places during the morning, some bright spells developing in the afternoon and rather breezy, highs between 9 and 14 Celsius. And there'll be a full forecast with Sabrina in around half an hour, but that's all from me. So let's hand you over now to Wales Live with Bethan and Rhys.
Thanks, Jen. Hello and welcome to Wales Live. Tonight, calls for more support for people belonging to ethnic minorities hit hard by the cost of living crisis. We hear from the Economy Minister. Also, help for farmers struggling with their mental health. And could surfboards made of mushrooms cut plastic in our oceans? Good evening. The rising cost of living is affecting us all, but some communities are affected more than others. And despite the rate of inflation falling slightly today, it remains close to a 40-year high. And that's partly being driven by big increases in the cost of food. A charity in Newport that delivers African food parcels says demand is growing for its help, and it's trying to remove a stigma attached to using food banks. Paul Martin reports.
The maize meal, it was very common with everyone, especially the Southern African countries.